All right. Hey everyone. Welcome to this time lapse of the RV demonstration that I did during one of the lounge sessions. Now I wanted to, or actually did, record everything from this session. But for some reason, through the software that I was using that streams my iPad, I made the mistake of actually recording it on that piece of software, and it came out very glitchy. And I'll show you a piece of it in this demo. But it was basically unwatchable because it repeated every action that I did twice, which made it super glitchy and weird. So anyway, I decided to use the time-lapse recording by default from Procreate that you can see right now. I slowed it down significantly so that we at least have something to talk about. And what I wanted to just go over in this, give you a bit of information for those of you who haven't watched me do this during the stream, is that I'm basically trying to redesign this RV by using just one reference, and I'll share the reference here in the video so you can see. So I'm basically just looking at one vehicle and a bit of my internal visual library, of course, to design something that looks a bit more rugged, rigid, and it can actually withstand maybe a zombie apocalypse. So again, like the hatch that you see me drawing now, it's not really present in the vehicle, but I think I've seen some vehicles similar to that, and they kind of operate as tanks almost. So they're not really weaponized, but they have the same level of protection. So that's what I'm trying to do here as well. I'm trying to think about the functionality when it comes to drawing a vehicle that, requires you to be protected from zombies, so to speak. So this is the recording, by the way, from the original software. And as you can see, that every time I draw something, like I'll draw this line right now, and it resets. And it just does that recording again. And that happened throughout the entire session, which was like super annoying to rewatch. So I couldn't have you guys watch that entirely. So what you basically see here is that I'm actually using the technique that I gave you during RV week, which is rounding off boxes. As you can see in a lot of these real life vehicles as well, is that what's primarily being used is that multiple rounding and chamfering of simple material, just because it's easier to manufacture, and two, it kind of takes away the level of stress points that you create in any sort of structure. And stress points, if you don't know what they are, stress points are basically where the material can withstand the most stress or the least stress, so to speak. And usually where there are very sharp corners, materials will be more likely to break or rip. And that's why they use a lot of rounding of corners and chamfering, because you basically minimize that aspect. Now moving on with this design, so what I'm basically thinking about, I'm using a technique that is very similar to the one that Jonas Minnebo has on the exclusive section of the website. And anyone that's interested in hard surface design, I highly recommend you check out that tutorial, because he basically has a really brilliant technique when it comes to filling out your visual library and getting better at designing from imagination. And it's basically using existing objects, like I do here with the vehicle that you see. And Jonas does it with just a cassette recorder, but he makes something look sci-fi and cool. And it's basically that you can use functional assets, functional detailing, and then use it to your advantage to make something completely new. So it's actually a more original way of photo bashing, so to speak, where you're not using the textures and the detailing directly from the photo. You're actually reinterpreting them to your advantage to benefit the design. And then as you can see right now, what I'm doing is, I'm adding some plating here and there that is pretty popular with just hard surface design in general. I'm taking over some of the detailing as the air vents that might, that are probably designed to make it withstand dust better in dry environments and deserts and stuff like that. And so I'm just reapplying those details to make my vehicle look more functional, because I have a functional base of an RV, but that's just what it is. It looks exactly like an RV, and I'm trying to make it look like a entertaining vehicle then that can withstand like zombie apocalypse, for instance, right? So we're trying to think of the functionality, but at all times it needs to look entertaining as well. So there's always an aspect of keeping, shape design and shape language in the back of our minds, while still using the base of this RV, which is important in this case for Vehicle Week as well, is I don't want to break the silhouette up too much, because we want to base this design on the silhouette of the RV. Otherwise, we're kind of losing the purpose of the design. And it creates a problem, but also a solution at the same time, because you have a base that you basically cannot break. So the silhouette is going to remain the same, and you only have to design within that silhouette. You can break it up a little bit, as you can see what I did on the hood of the RV, for instance. I did break up that silhouette a little bit to make it look more robust, but I'm still keeping the main aspects of that silhouette. Of course, the difficulty here is that we don't have that much freedom to work within. We have to work within a limited set of parameters, but I think it's a really good assignment for your design skills and just training your eye and actually kind of challenging your design sense. So I'm adding a little bit more functionality here, like the ladder, and it's not super functional because there are two types of ladders. There's the ladder at the bottom that's not really, usually that ladder is made to go up to a door, which could be the door of the main vehicle, of the driver's seat, because I actually switched the handle at the last minute, because it right now it would open like it would do some sort of a suicide opening, which is not really that practical. So I'm changing that up so that ladder could be functional for that door. However, I needed to add in the ladder because otherwise there's no way of getting to the hatch. And then I'm adding some lights that are indented into the front side of that carrier aspect of the RV, just because what I remember from my visual library is that a lot of SUVs and rough terrain vehicles they have headlights at the top of their vehicle, just because it gives them more oversight, it gives them more illumination when they need to go over rough terrain in dark areas. And it's just a common attribute in a lot of these vehicles. So I'm trying to add that in more of a designerly manner and not just stick them on top. That's the thing when you're designing. It's not only thinking about the functionalities, but also about how can we make something that is functional look a bit more entertaining. And then lastly, what I'm doing here with these harsh shadows is something that makes the design, it elevates it a little bit and it gives it more of that graphic read, which is always nice, because if you just keep this to a line art, it might look still a little bit bland if you don't give it any color. So giving it some of that visual pop using really graphic shadowing is something that will make it stand out even if you start coloring it. And the way you actually think about it a lot of the times is just ambient occlusion. So it's basically the same principle as shadow mapping, but the only thing that you're actually putting into shadow is roughly the ambient occlusion. So what I'm thinking about is this ambient light that is present just coming from the top, and I'm only shading in the features that are not going to receive any direct light even from the ambient light. And that's how I use that graphic shadowing. And again, even when shading, you're not only thinking about the realism of it or where the shadows actually belong, because some of these shadows are a little bit made up, or they are aesthetically more pleasing than they actually should be in real life. And that again comes to, when it comes to design, right? That's the thing you always need to consider. It's always about finding that nice balance between realism and aesthetics just to give a more entertaining design. And it's no different with the shapes of your drawing as it is with the shapes of your shading or your light, or whatever it is you're detailing. You always try and find that nice balance of cool shapes that still convey a sort of form and function or volume. All right, so that's it for this time lapse. I hope you find it a little bit useful. And again, if you have any questions about this, be sure to hit me up in the Discord, and I'll try to answer any questions that you guys have. All right, have fun. Bye bye.